from a decentralized location. This is the Crypto Effect.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Effect. And we are here again with all the chaos going on this week. Bitcoin still in a relative downturn. Not a whole lot going on. It's actually June 17th, 2020. And for the past, I don't know, 30 plus days, we haven't seen Bitcoin do a whole lot. And with that goes your altcoins, not really doing a whole lot either. So it's been an interesting market. We do have a lot of news coming out, though. So we're going to talk shortly about Bitcoin and maybe a little bit of positive news there. And then we're going to talk about the crash of the Iron token, and Mark Cuban, I think, get it handed to him. Which, if you've been in the game long enough, I think you've experienced that. I think everyone's experienced what Mark Cuban experienced recently. And then we're going to talk about Orion Protocol. They're coming out with their new platform this week, which is pretty promising. So we'll be getting into that too. But I'm here with Warble. Warble, how's your week doing?
Not too bad. As you notice, I lost my laser eyes. That's how bad things are.
You got rid of the laser eyes. You
Couldn't
just,
help it, man.
it's not worth it. It's not working.
I can't afford to keep them on.
Oh my God. You get rid of yours and I get mine finally put on, which is funny. Um, yeah, I got my laser eyes put on my picture on Twitter the other day, and I was pretty proud of it. I did it myself. But yeah, it's been that kind of week. It's been that kind of week. It feels like I don't know. I want to say it feels bad, but we were going through this in 2020. This is nothing new.
No, it's not. It's definitely not anything new. The one thing I did do was it Monday? I think I filled out my McDonald's application on Monday though.
I, well, I think what's the most upsetting thing for me with Bitcoin doing what it's doing is that you had like what 5 6 months of just raging bull, and it was exciting. It just it when things are like every time you look at it, things um and you just don't know when to stop putting in money. You're just like I can just toss money at any single item, and the next day it's up.
Yep.
And there's so much excitement behind that, it's hard to let it go, and you keep wanting it back, and you keep hoping that like today's going to be the day,
Yeah.
and nothing is happening. Literally, Bitcoin goes up, altcoins barely go up 1 or 2%. But then when Bitcoin drops, your altcoin drops another 10, 15%. So you're not making anything if you're in altcoins at all. You're
No.
making nothing.
No.
Um, so I mean, really, and that got me thinking. I do have a lot of positions in altcoins. I sold off. When everything started going down, I was trading the altcoins. They were having pretty enormous highs and then lows again, and it was good trading. I was breaking at least even, if not making a little bit of money off the downside. And then as soon as I stopped trading, I instantly went into negative. Negative total. That's just negative. I made plenty of profit over the bull run, but I'm seeing a lot of those profits disappear. So it's hard to know, even if Bitcoin rallies, are we going to get that rally in altcoins back? I mean, I'm sure we'll get it back a little bit, but these were so freaking high. They went so high. Um, is that potential still there?
Yeah, so I,
You
I
know,
think it is. I do think it's still there. I mean, I think once people start to make gains again on Bitcoin, I think you're going to see some outflow go back into alts. Will they go back into the
yeah.
really low micro cap? Alts probably not so much as they were, a couple months ago. But I do think that you're going to still see some of those alts come back up. But again, the level is to be determined. Nobody really knows. But it could be another 6 months. But I think when the fourth quarter rolls around, I think we'll start to see a rebound. I do think there's a lot of market shakeout right now. Um, And the thing is, I think a lot of the people that got into this, I mean, I know a couple of people recently that I've talked to, they're like, I'm never listening to you again. I've lost my money. I'm like, but you still have the coins that you purchased, right? I mean, it's part of the market. You have to, I think patience is probably the best asset anybody can have right now. Is that you just have to wait for the market to shake out a little bit more. And I don't know. I think we'll see a rebound. Again, it's to be determined. I
Mhm,
mean, may not be that level of a rebound right now, but I still think there's plenty of
mhm,
good tokens out there. But I think a lot of people got,
mhm.
you could look like a genius every week because everything went up. But at
Right.
the, right now where we sit, it's obviously it's a major sideways market. Um,
Mhm.
after that
Yeah.
major drop, of course.
Well, I do know a lot of people that got in within the last couple months, just as soon as the market was dipping. And I actually had a thought. It was really funny. I had this thought. I go, there are people who I would have never thought would get in crypto, getting in crypto.
Right.
That's normally not a good sign. When normies are like, oh, I'm finally going to get in, that's when like you've reached all time euphoria. You know what
Yep.
I mean? And that's normally when stuff starts, people start taking profits. And so I did have that feeling like, there's people I would expect getting in. There's some real big euphoria going on here. But definitely, I mean, even in 2020 when this was going on, it wasn't about where the price was at today. It wasn't where the price is going to be next week. It was about dollar cost averaging in and
Yep.
collecting as much coin as you possibly could. And I think that's where what you should be doing right now. Now, I mean, if you're an experienced trader and you want to trade this volatility on Bitcoin between like 33,000 and 41,000, 40,000, wherever it continues to bounce, you could probably make some really good short-term gains if you've got enough money to trade with. But again, it's definitely not going to be in altcoins. I would probably stay away from altcoins right now because if there is any change, it's going to be majorly in Bitcoin. So I think with that, we're going to take a quick look at the Bitcoin chart really quick. I was going to show off a few things, about what I've just recently learned uh, um, with what's going on with Bitcoin. One of the recent things that we were just talking about that we learned was something called the Golden Cross, and it's a lot like it's basically the exact opposite of that other. What's the name of that other cross? I just forgot.
Oh, the death cross.
The death cross. So there's the death cross, right? The death cross signaling, a major downturn in the market. When the 200-day goes above the 50-day, you're going to see a continuation of the down. It's called the death cross. It's when this little red bar reaches above the 50-day, which is the blue bar. It means that the blue bar with the 50-day, which is the shorter term, which shows a little bit more of the price action, is basically saying that once that crosses, we're going to see a continuation of a downtrend. But there's the opposite of that, which is called the golden cross. Now, the golden cross is when the 50-day, again, the blue bar here, starts turning from a downward trend into a flattened, almost an upward trend. So, you can tell if we squeeze down in, we're not really quite there. We're still moving at a downward pace. But if this was to level out and not quite cross the 200-day red, we would see what would be called a golden cross, which is them recrossing each other for the 50-day to begin to turn around, flatten out, and then move into an uptrend, which would signal a reversal of the downtrend, which is a signal to buy. For instance, this actually happened in May. It happened in May of 2020. You can see it here. I marked it in here. You could see where we were in a death cross here, which signals a downward trend. Okay, right here. And then we had a little bit of, well, I guess we did have a little bit of a golden cross, but right here you can see this one's a little bit sharper. It flattened out right here. That one's pretty sharp. That's a sharp turnaround, but it flattened. And that was primarily because of the pandemic. This is when Bitcoin dropped down to like 4,000, and we saw some pretty immediate turnarounds. And then this right here, this golden cross signaled a buying opportunity. So if you saw this cross right here, you knew, or you should have known, or been speculative of, hey, that's a great buying opportunity. That's a time when I'm going to start dollar cost averaging in. And if you had, look at that. Look at the gains on that. That would have been at $8,000. At $8,000, that you would have been like, oh, I'm going to start buying. And look at that. Look at the gains that you would have made on that. We can actually go back a little bit further. I marked another one. This one goes back to 2018. Same thing. Now you can see this one here. This one actually leveled out quite a bit. So there's your death cross right there, right? So there's your signal um, to basically get out. The 200-day moves above the 50-day, signaling a continuation of a down. And this went on for quite a while. I had this marked, and I think I accidentally moved it.
Well, and
But
that was the start of that prolonged bear market, pretty
yeah, so
much.
right here you have when the bear market actually hit, you had a couple days of downtrending here, but the bear market actually hit right here and went for 358 days. So basically an entire year of, you had some ups and downs, but basically you didn't really want to be in the market. Now we did hit that bottom here at around 3,000, before it flatlined out. But 358 days of a complete bear market, continuation of a downtrend. But then again, the golden cross hits right here. Now, it already gone up a little bit, but that golden cross was basically the indicator saying, now's your opportunity. And then you would have continued in on that high, which ran for quite some time. But of course, we did come down another 52%. And this was a little bit of a bear market here. Uh, before this was right before the pandemic, and then of course the pandemic hitting right here. So, again, and then there's that golden cross that would have told you before this last bear run. Now the question is, are we anywhere near that here? So, basically, you're going to want to be paying attention to what happens between the 50 and the 200-day coming up. And if you do see a flattening and those positions do not cross, um, then I think you're looking at a potential buying opportunity. But over the past over 30 something days, we have been running in between the 30. I kind of marked it here, like the 35 to 37. We've been playing in that area quite a bit, but staying really within the range of here of around 37 to 40. If we can break above this 40 to 42 mark here, if we can get above here and break this resistance level, that is going to be probably a signal, for continuation of the highs. So that's what we're kind of looking for. We did enter, this triangle here. If we can continue down on this trend and stay above this right here, we should be okay. We can continue trending upwards. That's kind of what we want to see over the next 30 days. So that's what's going on. Not a whole lot happening here, but if you want to trade it, you can trade it in this range below the 35 mark here, and upwards of the 40 mark. So that's kind of where I'm trying to play around in. So we'll see what happens over the next month. I think what happens in July is going to be pretty important. So there's a lot of good news coming out. We had El Salvador, coming out the other day, which I think is tremendous news. But it's just not pushing the markets. Nothing's really happening. So I don't know. Warble, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think the thing with El Salvador is good. I I think you're going to see the problem is I think that you're if you look at your chart and you look at that 50 and 200 day, I do think we're going to get the death cross, unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
um, just because it's the trend is too strong. I think,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I don't think that's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a prolonged. I think we're in for a long summer.
Yeah.
Um, And I have a feeling when the fall rolls around and the beginning of the fourth quarter, I think we're going to start to see that 50-day start to turn around, and I think that the 200-day is going to start to go the other way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the El Salvador news is good, but I also think that the problem is it's being counterbalanced, or it's being countered by news of the Feds with the inflation rates and the interest rates, and
Mm-hmm.
there's other news there that's unfortunately also dampening the excitement of the El Salvador news.
Right.
So, unfortunately, while it's a good thing, I think it's going to take, I really think that the interest rates and the inflation rates need to be ironed out, and, from the Fed from the US government, before we start to see something else happening with the price increase again.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely be paying close attention. Things were looking good a couple days ago. It looked like we were going to get above that 42 mark, but we did come back down a little bit. So the Bulls and Bears are fighting each other, and we don't really have a successor yet. But we will probably have to wait to see what this inflation news is going to do. What are the IRS, and what are we going to do with crypto? So much negativity coming out along with the good news, so it's counteracting it. But I think we'll definitely find out. I actually had on here marked June 19th. For some reason, as a significant day of change, and I think it was based on the calculation of what normally happens in a bear market within a period of time. So I marked 31 days from the last significant drop. So we either see another significant drop or we see a trend back upwards. So I'm actually looking forward to June 19th. So that's a Saturday. So we'll have to see what happens, see if my calculations at all are correct on this date line. But yeah, we'll let you know next week what happens. But I guess moving on, going into the new news with Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban gets, I guess you can call it rug pulled. I don't know if you'd call it rug pulled.
I don't think so. I wouldn't call it rug pulled. I think the problem with these, I think the issue here is the fact that there was I don't know if I would even say it was a misunderstanding, or not fully understanding the investment. But my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but my understanding with um, uh, this specific case with Iron Finance is that it was supposed to be a stable coin, but it didn't. But it's not backed. It's not a fully backed stable coin.
Yeah.
Um, it's actually I want to say it's an algorithmically determined stable coin. Is sort of like Olympus DAO, for example, where it's based on, so the treasury adjusts the value of the stablecoin based on how much money is in the treasury. That's what determines the value of that specific asset. And in
Hmm.
the case of Iron Finance, they simply didn't have the treasury to back the value. So as soon as people started to sell it, of course the price dropped at a massive rate. And I think, Mark Cuban maybe was investing in this, thinking about it in terms of, this is just like like a typical stable coin, but the reality is it wasn't.
I guess my question is, and especially being Mark Cuban, w- there's plenty of stable coins out there. You just mentioned Dow. There's USDT. There's at least what 4 or 5 uh, stable coins on every single exchange and swap platform that exists. Before Mark Cuban mentioned Iron, I had never heard of it.
Right.
So why put that much money into something that barely anyone's even heard of? I guess.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I did hear a little bit that Mark Cuban was involved in the project to an early investing level. So I'm thinking that it may have been a case where he got involved with the projects. Maybe he reached out and knew the founders of the project,
Hmm.
and was one of the early backers or early investors. And that's what's a little bit different here. He didn't do that obviously with Olympus DAO, or any of the other countless number of stable coins. This is a fairly new, actually it is a new project, and I believe that's how he got involved. I think he was an early backer, and he probably saw that it had potential. Which, by the way, I mean, I think it's worth mentioning. I think a lot of these, algorithmically defined stablecoins have a lot of potential, and I still think this does. I just think it's one of those cases where, unfortunately, um, people took their money and it crashed because it couldn't handle it from a treasury perspective.
Yeah. So basically, what happened is they call it a negative feedback loop was created when a series of large holders, so obviously holders that have millions of dollars worth, aka Mark Cuban, I guess, tried to redeem their iron tokens and sell their iron titanium, the token of the iron protocol, which iron titanium is the token of the iron protocol. uh, that in turn caused more Titan holders to run for the virtual hills, leading to what the team labeled a classic bank run. So a bank only holds so much money in their, in their building or in their platform or whatever you want to call it, in their vault. um, and you know, I don't want to say it's a raw Peter pay Paul situation, but let's just say if every single customer came in and tried to pull their money out at once, the bank doesn't even have that much money in the bank or around, to pay every single person at a single point of entry. So that's
Well,
essentially.
here's the thing, and this is an excellent point that you're talking about, is try going to your bank right now and taking $100,000 out of it.
Mhm,
You likely will have to wait.
exactly. Exactly. So, and I guess basically what happened, which it does bring up another question. What keeps that from happening from, like, like the USDT stablecoin or the DAO? you know, I guess maybe they have a little bit more backing, but it's a very interesting subject. I only read this one article talking about how basically iron went from a market, or a worth of 2 billion to zero, which $2 billion in a day. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, who's running this joint? Like, wow, they must had some big backers, and if those backers lost that much money, yikes.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
So that's definitely an interesting subject. He is calling for, I guess, regulation on these so-called stable coins. Where's the stable in the coin, per se? So, it is probably something worth talking about. And if you've been in the game long enough, you've probably experienced a rug pull. I think I experienced a rug pull the other day. Luckily, it wasn't very much money at all, because I figured it was a rug pull. And I won't mention it, but yeah, this stuff does happen. This is pretty much why I think right now in this period of time, Bitcoin and fundamentals are, your best, safest assets right now.
Yeah.
Fundamentals, Ethereum, Cardano, some of these top ones they have up here, they're fundamental projects. They have big backers, they have teams, they have, nowhere to go but up. So this small little downtrend is just basically buying opportunity as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Anything else outside of that, you are taking risk.
Yeah, you absolutely are. I mean, and again, I think what you just said is key for this, especially for this type of market, is just invest in the things that do have good fundamentals.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, there's plenty of them. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So we're going into one of our last topics here, something that I think both of us have really been excited about. Warble more than I, because Warble has a lot more Orion protocol than I do. I did buy Orion on one of its last dips, and I've continued to buy a little bit more and more. But they're coming out with one of their long time desired products in 6 days, 6 days away from their staking and pool launch. Which to the vested crypto person doesn't seem like that big a deal. Like, okay, well, a lot of platforms have staking and a lot of platforms have pooling, but Orion Protocol seems to have something really special behind their product, and it's actually really exciting. So Orion Protocol is the name of it. ORN's the symbol. You can find them on Twitter, of course. They do have a link tree here. I'm not wanting to click on their link tree. I'm trying to get the not even that. I'm trying to get over here. So Orion Protocols AMM launches on June 22nd, and they've got an Orion pool and a pre-staking platform, which is going to be really nice. And we can talk about why this is going to be such a cool utility. I think this is probably going to outdo a lot of AMMs. I don't know about, I love Pancake Swap, but they've got some really cool utilities here.
Yeah, the thing that I find really cool about these guys, and again, I think we said it in quite a few episodes ago when we talked about it, is the fact that it pulls in the liquidity or the markets from not just decentralized exchanges, but also centralized exchanges.
Yeah, yeah. So before we get into that, because I did wanted to bring that up. So basically, this is what they're going to offer, and I want to go over it, and then we can talk about what they're going to be doing. And you just mentioned one of the coolest parts. But on June 22nd, Orion Pool will be live on Orion Terminal, which they have their own terminal. It's like a Dex and a trading platform, and you can do trading on there. They're going to do swapping and trading, and they're going to have a governance, staking governance. The mainnet pre-staking liquidity will create Orion pools and AMMs, allowing assets to be traded on Orion terminal via liquidity pools. And this is what was one of the coolest parts. Orion terminal becomes the only trading platform to enable decentralized access to centralized exchanges, plus swap pools in one place. Orion will always route all orders to the liquidity source with the best price. Now, I don't even know all the details of what that is going to entail, but basically, they're saying that on their terminal, you're going to be able to access a centralized exchange like Coinbase Pro or Coinbase, for instance, or Binance. So
Think
it sounds like you're going to be able to use through some sort of API their platforms.
Yeah, so think about that just for a second though, and this is what I'm probably most excited about. So I like keeping I, I like keeping my cryptocurrency in my own wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I want to use something like KuCoin or Coinbase or Kraken or any of those, they're all centralized. So I have to send my cryptocurrency to those exchanges.
Right.
It's no longer my wallet. But when it comes to using something like Orion, you can actually use MetaMask to trade on a centralized exchange like KuCoin or Binance. You don't actually have to send your cryptocurrency to those exchanges. So, in my opinion, that's a game changer because think about it for a second. If that exchange gets hacked and you send, let's say you send every single bit of your cryptocurrency, your Ethereum, let's say you have 5 Ethereum, you send it all to KuCoin in an effort to make trades with it.
Mm-hmm.
KuCoin gets hacked, you're out of luck. You've lost 5 Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you're using Orion's platform, that Ethereum never leaves your wallet. You're trading with KuCoin, but you're actually doing it through Orion.
Yeah. So, and from what it sounds like, from what you're telling me, and again, we don't know all the details of how this is going to work exactly, but that is even going to save you on transfer costs. You know what I mean?
Absolutely will.
And the time to transfer. So, like, I have a maybe whatever Orion or Ethereum in my wallet. I've got to basically do a transfer to KuCoin or to Kraken or wherever, and I've got to wait for it to get there, And then finally, once it gets there, maybe cost me $20, just to get it there. And then once I do my trades or whatever, I usually don't always want to leave it there. So I want to pull it. That's another, you know what I mean? And the cost behind that can be pretty extensive. So I'm hoping that this will even save on those transfer costs.
Yeah, and it's really cool because they're actually supporting multiple blockchains. So
Mhm.
not only Ethereum, but they're also going to support Binance Smart Chain.
I mean,
Um,
that's even crazy because I use so many different exchanges as well because one exchange will have a coin versus another.
exactly.
So if I'm not having to bounce around a different exchange for different coins and I can go to one terminal to use the different exchanges, I mean, that is a game changer. So this,
Yeah, and it's transparent, which is awesome. So you
Mhm.
don't actually have to find the exchange with the best price.
Wow.
Orion's automatically going to do that for you.
So, I mean, I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know why we're not hearing as much. You may be hearing more than I am, where we're really paying attention to what's going on here. But like, I'm not hearing a whole lot of people talk about it, and this is such a big deal. So, just to be able to do that, to be able to hold on to your coin in your own wallet, under your control, yet you can take advantage of the markets and the exchanges, the utilities that they offer, the coins that they have available, and all that type of stuff is right there at your control. Um,
And it gets even better because, going back to what we talking about with like pre-staking, and the liquidity pools. So, we've both used it. So Uniswap,
mm,
liquidity pools. We've used farming with liquidity pools over on PancakeSwap. But what's cool about this is every liquidity provider, in addition to the standard trading that happens on those liquidity pools, you're also getting a percentage of all of the activity that happens on the entire platform, on the entire Orion platform.
mhm.
Plus, they support single-sided liquidity, which means if you want to just hold the ORN token and stake that by itself, you don't have to match it with anything. But what you would actually become a what they call a governance staker, um, in which case you would vote on proposals. And if you vote on proposals, you get additional yield because you voted. And all you
Wow.
have to do is really just provide your ORN. And again, it's in a smart contract. But this is a platform. Again, I said it before. I think it's got so much potential.
Yeah, and it's actually really cheap right now. I remember Orion was probably at like around 20 something dollars. And I did, when I first bought it, I think I bought it at like $7 or $8, and then it went up. But then it came back down, and I bought a little bit more. Now it's at like $8 or $7. I don't recall the exact price at this moment, but it seems just so cheap to compared to where it just was. Obviously, there's a lot of things like that, but I think there's right now it's probably a good opportunity. None of this is really even taken off yet. People aren't. It's still kind of in the background in my eyes. Like a whole lot of people aren't grasping what's happening here. So I think it's probably at a really good price to grab right now. And then continuing on with some of the stuff coming out in a week, they have an arbitrage SDK to allow traders to easily configure their bots for Orion Pool. I don't know exactly what that means, but it sounds like you'll be able to build your own arbitrage. Um, uh, Starting next month, any project can list on Orion Pool, increasing assets and pairs exponentially. Basically, a lot like PancakeSwap, they started allowing projects to launch on their platform. It sent, Pancake skyrocket, allowing all these new protocols to come to their platform. And then not only that, but you can pair and stake with that. So that's a continuing of passive income, which is always good to be using those passive incomes, especially during these bearish times, because while you're not really wanting to sell, but you're not also buying, you're just reaccumulating uh, constantly in the background. So that's always a good thing because when the bull market comes back around, you'll have more than you left with, or before you put it in there. Orion will soon integrate leading swap pools like Uniswap, PancakeSwap, SushiSwap, and add significantly more liquidity to the terminal. So that's interesting. They're going to be able to integrate with those. So why would you even use those other ones?
And that's a good point, because I was gonna say it does make me a little concerned for these other platforms.
Yeah.
um, because if you think about the point you just made is why would I go to Uniswap or
Hmm.
PancakeSwap and use those? I mean, I wouldn't really have a need to at that point in time, especially since uh, this supports Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and I mean, look at the chains that they're planning to support. I mean, that is insane. Cardano, Phantom, Polkadot, Avalanche,
Hmm.
Elrond. I mean, that's insane. That's a lot of different types of layer one chains.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff coming. Again, this is over the pool and staking launches next week. Some of the other utilities, like uh, uh, the asset pairing and the arbitrage and stuff like that, comes later. But this could outrun a lot of these other dexes or these other AMMs.
I
I don't
think it
know.
will. I really do. I really think it will eventually. Um, it's, I really don't. I don't understand myself why it hasn't gotten more attention. It really is
Mm.
kind of puzzling to me.
It is puzzling, but again, they haven't launched a lot of the utility yet. There's not a whole lot you can do. They have the Dex, which a lot of people already have. They have the swapping and trading. A lot of people already have. So they haven't done anything that's too outstanding. But coming up here in the next week, leading into the next month, there are some big game changers here. So, this is usually early detection. We did this in the past. We did it with Pancake. Remember,
Right.
Pancake was this awesome platform. We kept talking about it. We kept saying, "How the heck is no one seeing this?" And you got invested before I did. You saw it before I saw it, but we both ended up jumping on board, and then that sucker went like skyrocketing.
Well,
Uh,
I recall talking about Pancake when it was $10, $9,
it was like
$10,
$8 or $9.
and about a month or two after that, it was up to $40.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't imagine the people that were in at like 60 cents because I know
uh,
it was in the pennies at one point. But if you were smart enough to get in at 60 cents, good on you because that was a pretty genius move. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that with this, it's one of those things like how are we really the only ones seeing this? I mean, it's possible.
I mean,
But
I see a lot of I do see a lot of the really smart long-term investors or long-time investors talk about this. I mean,
mhm,
the Moonwalker talks about this constantly.
yeah.
And he says the same thing. He says, I really can't understand how this hasn't gotten more attention.
Well, we really are in a popularity game right now. If a YouTuber's not talking about it, the coin doesn't seem. It's a popularity contest at this point. Utility hasn't really been able to grab hold of the customer. It's the popular. We're in a popularity contest at this point. So
Yep, I
until
agree.
someone starts talking about it, until one of these YouTubers opens their brains and starts like looking at fundamentals from an actuality standpoint, people aren't going to see it. And so I honestly think we're just early. So hopefully this video goes viral and people get a hold of it. But yeah, this thing is going to be pretty amazing. So there's a lot more here. You can go to their webpage, orionprotocol.io, and just check out all the different stuff. Is there anything more you want to talk about with Orion?
I was just gonna say, if you want to just quickly pull up the terminal and just show it.
Let's see. I was just in it a second ago. Yeah, here's the exchange platform, which is really pretty slick. It looks like most things, yeah, everything seems to be paired with the USDT. So if you wanted to trade Bitcoin for USDT, Orion, whatever have you, Polkadot, there's a lot of different things on here that you can trade. The volume seems pretty decent. It doesn't look like it's too bad. They got a dashboard here, so you can actually look at your balance and how much you have or what you have, and deposit here and withdraw. So it's pretty sweet. It's a good looking platform. History, of course, this is your deposit history and things like that. These are these your stats or the terminals? They look like terminal stats.
No, those are terminal stats.
And you can switch between Binance and Ethereum, which that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah,
is. Yeah.
where is the terminal at for pooling? Am I missing it?
Oh, yeah. So if you go back to their main page,
Let's see, Orion terminal.
yep. And are you looking for the liquidity?
I'm looking for the liquidity pool. Yeah,
Right. So if you go back to the main page, I think you had it open in one of your
I
tabs.
can just click on. Okay, there we go.
And then if you go to staking, you'll see the liquidity mining.
There we go. So yeah, you go to their main page, liquidity mining, staking, whatever.
And I will warn you ahead of time, this page does take a little bit to come up.
Mm,
But so what this is doing is this is right now at this present time, it's using a Uniswap pool essentially. You would provide liquidity in a Uniswap pool, and then you push your LP tokens back to these guys, and you're then provided basically you're provided the percentage on top of that.
yeah.
So I've been doing this now for about a week or so,
Hmm.
on the liquidity pools, and I've got to say I'm fairly impressed with it. I think it's about
Yeah.
110% APY right now. So
Oh wow, that's amazing because they actually have a calculator. You can go in and you can compare basically volume to some of the other platforms, as well as how much you're staking, um, your Orion stake. So if you calculate how much Orion you have, which I think is this what's in there
yeah,
total.
that's the total that's staked, total locked value, right?
Okay, so I don't know how much that is, but and then you can look at what the market price, which again I said $8. I mean, just think about it. You just literally have your Orion sitting in there, and you're staking these rewards, which is pretty dang good if you ask me.
Well, and
Um,
this is also one of those tokens that I feel as though, I plan to hold on to it for a long time.
mhm.
So why not earn something on top of that?
Yeah, and if their protocol volume goes up, let's say we match it with 1 inch.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
No, that can't be right. That can't be right.
Well,
Uh,
it's possible though, because think about it this way: if the volume is that high,
mhm.
every transaction on their platform yields something to your holders.
Well, yeah, but no, what happens is the total Orion stake goes up. So
Oh, that's gonna certainly go up. Yeah.
you've got to do this correctly. Just because the daily volume goes up, that means that more people are staking,
Oh, absolutely.
which
Yeah,
takes
absolutely.
away the value of how many people are getting the share, which then also changes the value of the price, right? The price would go up.
Right.
So I mean, but this is to match what's happening today, not what's happening in the future, because you really can't know exactly. But yeah, I mean, if you matched it with what's happening today, you could add a little bit of potential in there and see where you're at. But you just make it with your what you're actually holding, and you can get a good idea of what your return is going to be. So that's pretty cool. $147 a month for 100 Orions, pretty dang good. You know what I mean?
I would say, yeah.
So, anyways, go to Orion Protocol.io. They've got their staking. Again, their pool comes out next week, and they've got the farms and stuff like that. So, a lot of cool utilities coming out. Huge, huge opportunity. I feel like for this one.
It's very it's very underpriced right now too. I feel as though,
Mhm.
at least.
So, you want to catch up anything on Orion, or were you good on that one?
No, I'm good there.
All right. So yeah, Orion Protocol guys, check them out. I own some. I'll probably getting more, especially as they're down right now. They've been kind of hovering around the $7 and $8 range. With really their average price being around like $15. So they're about 50% off. It's what I'd call it at this point.
Yeah, and I want to
So
say that I'm pretty sure the max supply is 100,000 or 100 million, I believe. I could be
oh
mistaken,
really?
but I
I
think
can
it's
look it
100.
up. We could probably look it up real quick, and I can just tell you really quickly what the max supply. I'm showing on Coin Market Cap at 100 million, so that's not even that many to be perfect.
No, it's
So
it's definitely not.
if you're holding a good chunk of it over a long period of time, they have a market cap of 234 million. Uh, right there in that discovery phase, I feel like they're still in a discovery mode.
Yeah.
So I think accumulation is the name of the game on this one. So with small bites, continuing through the bear market, and then once this one takes off, you're probably going to be quite wealthy, especially if you're staking it. So that's our buy for the week, and that's really all I have.
Yep. The only other thing I wanted to mention is both you and I have been holding it through all the airdrops is graphene.
Yeah.
And I believe their last two airdrops are actually going to be random dates.
Oh wow.
And the reason apparently that they're doing that is they're doing it to avoid market manipulation.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to protect the price of four, justifiably so.
Mhm.
But they're planning to release, I believe, the last two airdrops between the months of, I believe it's July and August.
Mhm.
But they're randomly selecting those dates. And it'll be exciting to see what happens in the fall with graphene, because I think we're going to see it get released in the month of September, October.
Yeah, hopefully by the next when the next bear market actually starts, which would be really cool. What we're talking about is a new token coming out called Graphene. You get it for holding the four token PHORE, and we've been holding this token for like 6 months,
Right.
waiting on this airdrop. Now, most airdrops come like that; they're dropped, and normally that sends the price going up, but then immediately brings it right back down. But Graphene's been doing a slow distribution over the last 6 months, and there's huge promise for this token, I believe. Not four, but Graphene, maybe four in the future. But Graphene token has been getting airdropped, so we'll probably talk a little bit more about that when it comes out. We'll
Yeah,
definitely talk
I think we should. Yeah.
about that.
And I believe that's really that's all I've got.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all for joining us this week. Um, if you have any questions or comments, or you want us to look over a certain token that you're speculative on, let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.
All right. See you, everyone.